Hello, my brothers. So this video is day 30 of a video a day for 30 days. I had a sense that this was going to be building towards something. And this morning when I was out on my hike, I felt this knowing that I'm meant to talk about my own story, a very particular part of my story and my journey that is specifically about the last year and a half. And so I'm here sharing this story because I know in my own life that I've learned the most from other people's experiences. And so, in the telling of these experiences, this very particular experience of loss over the last year and a half, in the telling of this, my intention is to remind you that if you are experiencing or you have experienced a lot of loss, if you are starting your healing journey and it feels very intense and it seems like you could lose hope very easily, that sharing my story can help you contextualize what may be happening in your own life. So, about a year and a half ago, there was this sense that something was shifting. My work was slowing down, and I was trying to listen to the cues of like, okay, what is the evolution? What is the next steps in my work? Because I know that if work is slowing down, that's a sign to me that there's a shift that needs to happen. A friend of mine who is an astrologer, for my birthday, she gave me a solar return reading, which is looking at my chart for the year ahead to give me a little bit of guidance and to say, this is potentially what could happen energetically, what could be happening in your life. And she said, in the kindest way that she could, I think you're going to experience a lot of loss in the coming year. Of course, that's not what you want to hear on your birthday when you're like, yeah, the next year is going to be my greatest year ever. She said, it looks like there's going to be a lot of loss, but ultimately it's for a lot of gain. And I could feel that. I already felt like I was experiencing loss. There was a lot of diminishment happening in my life in a lot of areas. So this is contextually, this is about 3.5 years of living in Mexico. And during that time, there was a lot of 3.5 years of disillusion of my ego, of parts of myself that were the constructed self, a continuous deep, deep healing and multiple dark nights of the soul. So I'd already felt like I'd been through the ringer in a lot of ways. So I had already been feeling like I had lost a lot. And to hear that I was going to lose more, that that hit me in the gut a little bit. I thought the next steps for me were to move out of the town that I was living in and to move on to this piece of property that I would share with someone else, with the intent that we could potentially build this property into a retreat center together, which has always been one of my dreams. And after a couple of months of being there, I really felt like, okay, I think this is it. I think this is the right next step. This is how things evolve. And I continued to ask God, source, my highest self. I continued to ask to say, hey, if this is meant to be, make it clear. And if it is not meant to be, make it clear. And it was made very clear one afternoon when the person that I was sharing this land with and had built a friendship with, I saw a side of him that scared me actually and made me immediately leave the property, immediately move out because I didn't feel safe. And in doing so, I felt so much shame because I was so sure that this was the right next step for myself. And coincidentally, in this solar return astrological reading from my friend, she said that this would be the year where I would need help and support from other people. And that was the moment that I needed it. I didn't have a place to live. So I immediately contacted all of my friends in the town that I was living in previously, and they were very supportive. I felt a lot of shame. I felt embarrassment because I left the town saying, this is my next step. This is what's going to happen on this property. And so I had to make a choice of what was next for me. And I had resistance to coming back to the US. And then I made the choice that's the right thing for me to do, is to come back to the US, to spend some time with family and to gather myself and to really listen to what is next. So coupled with this really sharp change in direction, this need to be supported by friends, which was very uncomfortable for me. I'm so used to taking care of myself and taking care of other people that asking for help felt shameful in some ways. And so I had to move past that. That was a humbling experience. And so coupled with this was also a lot of debt that I was carrying around. And I was able to manage that debt for many years because my practice was doing fine. And as the practice diminished, of course, my finances diminished. And so that made it more challenging for me to continue paying off this debt. So when I came back to the US and spent a few months with family, I knew that I needed to file for bankruptcy. That was a choice that I made. And it took me a while to get to that point, but it was the best option for me, the right option for me. Initially, there was some shame around this choice, but I knew that it was the right choice for me, and that's all I needed to know. So this started a period of time in which I needed to surrender completely. I had no idea how I was going to go from this place, this moment, which felt like rock bottom to me. It felt like there's nothing more that I can be stripped of. Thankfully, I had my health. Thankfully, I had my mental capacity. But as far as resources went, I was being stripped. As far as ability to affect change on my finances, on my practice, everything that I stepped towards just shut down, shut down, shut down. It was like God was saying, no, no, I'm going to close off every path that you try to take so that you completely surrender to what you're here for, so that you really listen, so that you don't have any choice but to surrender. So when I landed back in the US and got myself grounded, I knew that my only focus was to really listen to what I was being guided towards. I knew that this wasn't happening as punishment. I had the faith, I had the awareness that somehow this was working for me, even though it was fucking devastating. I would cry all the time. There were many other things that I won't share in this moment that also were building up at the same time that were just pushing me to let go, to break down. And that breakdown was sacred, that it was the demolishment that I needed to build what is existing now, today, so that I could truly say that with beyond a shadow of a doubt, that in the darkest of moments, in the deepest of surrendering, is when we are closest to truth, is when we are most open to receiving guidance and direction. Before all of this demolishment started happening, I would say that my relationship with God was decent. I don't think at that time I was really using the word God. I was probably using spirit or the universe and feeling okay with that. But there was something specific about coming back to a relationship with God, using that word that felt important. My relationship with God deepened so deep because I had nothing. I had nothing to go on. And every time, like I said, every time I tried to take a step and my ego was like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to solve this. Oh, if I do this, then it'll work out. Oh, I just need that. I need to go in this direction. Every time I would take a step, closed doors, closed doors, closed doors, more demolishment, less ego, less ego, less ego, where God was saying, okay, are you ready to fully let go? Can you truly trust this? So my only job became to open myself up to the direction that God was opening up for me, the path that God was trying to direct me to. Over the course of a month or two, daily I would dig deep, both in prayer, in journaling, in my own practices of connecting to what is really true for me. If there was one thing that I had to say before I leave this earth, what is it and who is it for? And that led me to this. And so it became clear that the work that I'm doing now and the very specific focus of it was where I was meant to devote my time and attention. And very quickly, the energy opened up. In the same way that the doors closed for all of the directions that I was trying to go, that I wasn't meant to go, in the same way that all those doors closed, all of the doors started opening when I focused on this. It became so obvious to me that in this moment, this is my highest purpose. And that there's a very specific group of people who needed a very specific message, and I was meant to be the one to share it. At that time, I probably had a few hundred YouTube subscribers. I really wasn't using YouTube that much. I was mostly writing on Instagram, and I started noticing that Instagram just didn't really feel like the place where I could express a deeper message like this. And so I started recording YouTube videos on the topic of the purpose of us as homos, what I believed we are here for, and started speaking about us as spiritual beings and that our homoness is something that is a gift, but we need to know how to use it. We need context for why we are the way we are. Very soon, there was traction happening on YouTube. I was shocked when, after a few videos, there was a video that just continued to get views, continued to get comments, and I went, oh, okay. People are resonating with this. Either they're curious or they feel that themselves. And I really felt like I tapped into a current, and the path opened up for me. All of the darkness, all of the loss, all of the devastation and destruction, the ego deaths, the continuous disappointments and closed doors were all directing me to this single place. And then it became very clear. And my relationship with God, my relationship with myself, my relationship with purpose, and with my sexuality, everything coalesced at that moment. Without that year and a half of so much loss, I would never have surrendered to the degree that I had to. And I would never be able to, with certainty, tell you and anyone ever sitting in front of me that they can trust surrendering into the divine plan and that there is a purpose for their lives. And so what I know for sure is that you have purpose for being here. And that if you are experiencing a lot of pain, a lot of loss, even if that feels like it's happening for years, you are not being punished, you are not cursed. There is a path for you that will show itself the more that you lean into your relationship with the divine, with the universe, with your higher self, whatever you want to call it. There's something for us to lean into. So what you see from me in the things that I talk about, what you see perhaps radiating from me, is because I let everything fucking crumble around me. And I said to God over and over and over, it wasn't a one-time deal. There were so many times sitting in my car, driving in my car, because many times I drove back and forth from Mexico to the Pacific Northwest. Those are days in the car by myself. And I remember on the long drive, a song came on that was a worship song. And, you know, songs about worship that talk about Jesus, that talk about God, I had a lot of resistance to because of how I grew up. But this song came on shuffle, and it's called Fear Is Not My Future. I'd never heard this song before. It's like 7 minutes long, and it builds and builds. And I was driving down these windy roads, and the words were landing in my heart because I was in that place where I had no idea what my future was. And the only thing I felt was fear and devastation. And I had no idea how things were going to work out. And that song touched my heart so much, and it became my anthem for many months, that every time one more disappointment happened, I could remember, fear is not my future. Fear is not my future. I have to hold on. And there were many times where I did not want to hold on, where there was just a thread of hope to keep going. And I want you to know that if you've only had threads of hope, that you can hang on to that, because the darkness does open up into light. And there is a path for you. And I want you to know that so deeply. So what I'm doing here is not just like a good business idea because I'm a coach and I think that gay men are a great niche for me. No, this is the deepest calling in my heart, where everything in my life shut down to point me in this direction. It's so clear to me why everything happened in the way that it did, so that I could sit here with you and tell you clearly that I know what is possible when we lean towards our purpose, when we surrender, and when we are in co-creation with the divine. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And this certainly isn't my last video, but now I see why there was this culmination, that I was meant to share this message today, one that I didn't know if I would ever share. So thank you for receiving it, and I hope that it serves you in some way. And I will be making, from this point on, one video a week, and I think that'll be happening on Wednesdays or Thursdays. So look out for that in the future as I wipe my tears here. So much love to you. And if there's any way that I can be of service to you beyond these videos, if you would like some support, some guidance, you can take a look in the description at the offerings that I have, and feel free to reach out to me to share anything, ask anything. I'm so happy to have this connection with you. And I wish you the best. So much love.